I'm delighted to be joined now by the leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage.
Good morning.
Lovely to see you. Right, let's get stuck into why you're boycotting the BBC.
Right from the start of this campaign, the BBC have behaved like a political actor. I remember the first interview I did on the Today programme, I came off air and thought, there's no point. There's literally no point. No opportunity to talk about policy, about ideas. But what happened on Friday with that question time audience was truly astonishing. First question gets asked by a chap who has himself produced 8 programmes for the BBC, including the very woke now Doctor Who.
Right.
So he gets to ask a question. The third question is asked by a chap who's a well-known street Palestinian campaigning activist. I think question number 7 or 8 was asked by a girl who's a very active left-wing campaigner, which is perhaps fine. Point I'm making is a question time audience is supposed to be representative of the country as we go into the final week of a general election. It was miles from that. And I did ask the BBC for an apology.
Having said that, does that necessarily disadvantage you? Because you know what you believe. You're a robust communicator. You get taken on by people that don't agree with you. Then it's you can position yourself very strongly.
Look, I'm all for a free and fair debate. Goodness gracious me! But I've now done a series of big BBC programmes over the last few weeks, and every single audience has been tilted towards either the Green or the Labour Party in the most astonishing way.
They refute that. And I will read their statement at the end, but fair enough. Let's talk about this Channel 4 documentary then. So you're saying that this guy, Mr. Parker, Andrew Parker, who turned up as an activist on the day, he's an actor, but at the same time, what I can't pin down is, are you suggesting that this is Channel 4, like placing him in there as a stooge? Because they're denying that.
Channel 4 will stay as far away from it as possible. Of course, Channel 4 use production companies.
Yeah.
That gives Channel 4 deniability. Look, let's just get the facts. This chap bowls up, all right? Big, larger than life, a really big, strong, almost slightly comedic comic accent. And that's how he is. He hangs around the office. He hangs around with 2 people who I didn't understand at the time were working for Channel 4. They were together. He then says, I've got a big car. Canvassing team come with me. A couple of our activists get in the back with Channel 4 in the front. And from the minute he got in the car, apparently, he was saying all sorts of things about people of different colours and sexualities and trying to G up the Reform activist who didn't play. Then they get to the canvassing spot and he comes out with this stream of invective against Rishi Sunak. He says that all the mosques should be turned into Wetherspoons. And I looked at this and thought, it doesn't quite ring true.
When this was said, like, on the campaign trail, did anyone from your team flag this and say, look, we've got someone dodgy amongst
us? When they
us?
came back, one of the ladies that was with him, when she came back, said, look, I'm really alarmed at some of the behaviour that I've just seen. Anyway,
what did you then say? Because presumably
I didn't find out till the next morning.
Right, OK.
Because I wasn't there.
Because somebody in the team should have then said to that activist, to Andrew Parker, sorry, we don't want your type around here.
He'd gone.
Right.
The next morning I found out he was an actor, right? Go to his website. He speaks, he's very posh.
Yes.
Not quite Jacob Rees-Mogg, but he's very, very posh. And yet he has this alter ego where he does what he calls rough speaking. Yeah. He even posts on TikTok. He's a modern-day Alf Garnett type. I mean, the stuff on TikTok is... The language is horrendous. Why, if you were a genuine Reform canvasser, why would you turn up in the office using your alter ego voice and not your real voice?
But that doesn't necessarily prove that he's been sort of placed or engineered into that by Channel 4, does it?
Well, he's worked for Channel 4 in the past.
Yeah.
He's done acting roles in the past. But you don't have concrete
proof that Channel 4 have said to this guy, right, you go in, you go and start casting aspersions around and using racist language and see if Nigel agrees with you.
He seemed to know the Channel 4 infiltrators very well. And by sheer coincidence, on a day when there were 100 canvassers, they were all together in the same car. The morning after this all came out, he was rung by us on the Telegraph. He denied that he was an actor. He lied then. I've seen lots of this in the past. This is the biggest smear stitch-up I have ever seen. We will get to the bottom of this.
All right, fair enough. On the subject of some of your dodgy candidates, let's just grasp the nettle here, because the question will be, why do so many racists and people with inappropriate views about homosexuality, even about, Jewish people, why do they all get attracted to Reform?
I think, ironically, it's because I destroyed the BNP. I put them out of business.
Yeah.
So where else can these people go?
But you don't want them with you?
As you know, when I led UKIP and hey, I mean, when the Brexit Party, when 29 of us turned up in Strasbourg 5 years ago, we were the most diverse group ever seen in the European Parliament. And you know where I am on this. I've been leader of this for a month, OK? I inherited a start-up party that had almost no money and almost no staff, and said, volunteer, we want candidates. So we have finished up with some people who were rotten. I tried to fix it by getting a well-known, prominent, ex-number 10 man who had a vetting company. We gave him 144 grand. He didn't do the job. So we have finished up with some people who are truly dreadful. I apologise for that, but it's not reflective of me and it's not reflective of the party, and it certainly isn't reflective of where we're going after next Thursday.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that, because you're talking about in terms of like the next term and 2029.
Yeah.
Just clarify, are you saying you want to run to be PM in 2029?
Unless somebody younger and better looking comes along.
All right, so you appreciate then the need to do two things. First of all, you've got to absolutely professionalise reform.
Absolutely.
We were saying earlier, if Reform's actual organisation was as good as your social media, you'd be doing well. But it strikes me, there isn't the governance there isn't the vetting procedures, it's all pretty chaotic.
It's a start-up. It's a start-up. It is a little start-up.
How will you improve things over the course of the next 4 to 5 years then?
I've done it before. We actually, by 2015, had built UKIP into a proper professional structure with 400 branches around the country. And this is remarkable. We will go through 60,000 paid-up members today. That's double in the space of a month, all paying their 25 quids. Right. We have a mailing list of over 200,000. I am going to build a mass movement in British politics for real change, because you know something? Labour don't represent that.
All right, so mass movement, if you really do want to be PM in 2029, then you and I both know that your vote share needs to start with a 3, not a 1 or a 2. And so here's the question for you in Reform. Do you actually have to moderate a bit more? Because I appreciate you've got people watching and listening to this who are massively in your fan club. They love you. You've got that caucus of support. I think Scarlett Maguire said to me last week, you're averaging, if you take all of the polls, around 18%. You've got to get that much higher, and you're not going to do that with inflammatory remarks about Vladimir Putin that have put off
I've made none.
moderates.
No, I've made no inflammatory remarks.
But you know that there are some, they've written into the Telegraph. I know them in my own circle.
Of course, because it's the hoax.
I was considering voting for Reform, but this has put me off.
It's the hoax. Look, unlike the Conservative and Labour Party, I was opposed to the Iraq War. I was opposed to the Libyan War, and I predicted 10 years ago what Putin would do in Ukraine. None of them saw this coming. The fact that I predicted it doesn't mean I support it, but that's the sort of nonsense that you get in politics.
But you do appreciate that some of this does, and even perhaps some of the problems with the activists, it makes more moderate righties think, I don't know, I can't touch Reform. I'm finding Farage a bit unsavoury. You do understand that mentality?
I do, and I've been in this game for 3 decades, so I understand that. But I tell you what, today we launch a star. I think perhaps if somebody is going to replace me, maybe you'll see him today. We've got 5,000 people coming to Birmingham at midday today, and Zia Yusuf, who is a self-made, highly successful businessman.
Yes, I've interviewed.
Patriotic, he's going to be the big star of today.
And having said that, I think some of your other stars have been a bit conspicuous by their absence. Where's Lee Anderson been on the campaign trail?
His wife has been very seriously ill.
I didn't know
in the
that.
last couple of days.
People have been asking me, where is Lee?
So I wanted Lee to come today, but his wife has been very ill.
Fair enough. Thank you for clarifying that point. When I said about that whole moderating your views then, so you think that you can grow this from a fairly sort of right-wing platform? I'm not going to call it far right and hard right.
No.
Do you need to moderate a little bit to get more people in, to get to 30%?
No, because I think what we're talking about, the fact that Britain is broken, that nothing works, that the population explosion has devalued the lives and quality of life of pretty much everybody. I think people are joining up the dots out there now, and they're beginning to understand it.
So when you say about this campaign, I get the whole putting yourself as the opposition, but proportional representation. Are you going to make that a campaign like Brexit?
Next Sunday, you'll be sitting here, and there'll be a massive national debate about the fact that the Labour Party got 37% and 450 seats, and that Reform got, 6 million votes and 15 seats. And we'll see that first past the post, absolute first past the post, now doesn't work for anybody.
But you'll need cross-party collaboration for that, won't you? We probably have to work with the Lib Dems. And I've already asked Ed Davey and Daisy Cooper whether they'll work with you, and they say no.
But it doesn't matter.
But Brexit worked because it transcended ideological boundaries, didn't it?
No, we were on our own campaigning to leave.
But hang on, you had lefties also supporting leaving the
We were on our own for 25 years, campaigning to leave the European Union with no representation in Parliament
You did
whatsoever.
have old Labour, but that's not quite right. You weren't on your own because you were able to kind of unite old Labour, working-class Labour voters with blue wall Tories and I suppose then red wall Tories.
Well, I can assure you the kind of political change we want will unite all of those people too.
OK.
This thought that you only change things from within Parliament's nonsense. Brexit happened because of a grassroots upwelling in this country.
Are you worried about votes for 16 or 17-year-olds, or does your TikTok following suggest you might benefit from that?
Oddly, my support amongst youngsters has just gone through the roof in these last few weeks. No, I don't think you should be able to vote in an election that you can't be a candidate in. And I don't think 16-year-olds should be in Parliament.
Even if the 16 and 17-year-olds might be persuaded by reform, because we've seen what right-wing parties have done in the European Parliament, right?
But there is something called principle as well.
Yeah, OK.
You know?
All right. George Galloway has suggested that you two should have, as the great disruptors of British politics, that you should have a one-on-one debate between now and Thursday. Leader of the Workers' Party, obviously got quite a controversial past. What do you think of that? Would you go head-to-head with Galloway?
He's a fascinating figure. I do find his views on Israel pretty offensive. I don't like the kind of sectarian politics that we saw that got him elected
Come on
to
then,
Parliament.
Nigel.
But you know what? There wouldn't be much of a debate because he's more opposed to cross-channel migrants than me.
No.
He's a bigger supporter of Trump than I am.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where the debate would be.
Well, would you have one?
Not in the next 3 days. I've got too much to do.
OK. But he has challenged you to one.
But the principle of having debates, I'm all for.
Yeah.
Because what we've seen is Keir Starmer not wanting to say anything and Rishi Sunak telling the country he supports low taxes and low immigration, having done the opposite.
Talking about debates, Trump versus Biden on Thursday night.
Yeah.
OK, now, obviously there are now calls for Biden to step down and it's hoped that somebody will tap him on the shoulder. Obama, his wife Jill. Do you think Trump can still win if they replace Biden with somebody like Newsom?
Yes, I mean, the Jill Biden role is extraordinary. I mean, what is happening to Joe Biden is almost elder abuse. It was hard to watch. Even Trump didn't attack him because it was just so awful and predictable.
But it would be better for Trump if he stays in place, right?
Well, I think the Trump team have always wanted him to stay in place. Gavin Newsom is, of course, much younger, quite photogenic, but comes with a hell of a millstone around his neck, and that's the state that California's in. He's been the governor, worst education system in the whole of America. So I still think Trump wins. All
right. Nigel Farage, thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning. I need to just give you the BBC and Channel 4 statement against what Nigel Farage is saying. They've pushed back against his claims, the BBC, and a spokesman said, "We refute these claims. Question Time audience was made up of a broadly similar levels of representation from Reform UK and the Green Party, with other parties represented too. There were also a number of people with a range of political views who are still making up their mind." The spokesman for Channel 4 News said, "We strongly stand by our rigorous and duly impartial journalism, which speaks for itself. We met Mr Parker for the first time at Reform Party headquarters, where he was a Reform Party canvasser. We did not pay the Reform UK canvasser or anyone else in the report. Mr Parker was not known to Channel 4 News and was filmed covertly via the undercover operation.